measurements I am using: shoulder, bust, waist 30 divided by 4, bust is 36 divided by 4, shoulder is 15 divided by 2, then the shoulder to the bust point is 10, shoulder to waist 16, bust point 7, then the back half length is 15. So this is the measurement I need for this video. So let us go right into it. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to construct my basic bodies. And my pattern is on fold, as you can see. This is my pattern on fold. So I'm going to mark my vertical measurements. Measurement I'm marking here is my chest line measurement, which is gotten from my bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. The arm molded to 7.5 plus half, plus 1 inch, sorry, that's 8.5. So I'm marking 8.5 for the 1 inch for so the next measurement I am marking here is my bust point. Bust point is 10. The next measurement I am marking is waist 16. So I am replicating this measurement just here, and I'm drawing a straight line to connect them. So the next measurement I am marking is my shoulder measurement. So this is my shoulder. What I have here is 15, so I'm marking 7.5. Then on this line, I'm also marking my 7.5. Sorry. This is my shoulder measurement. Then I'm coming down 1 inch. Remember, I said we came down the arm hole depth to 7.5, but we added 1 inch because of the shoulder allowance. So I am removing that 1 inch which I added now. I am marking my neck. I'm using a neck of 3 by 3 because 3 by 3 is most likely the standard neck measurement for clothes. I'm going to take my bust measurement. 36 divided by 4 is 9, and I'm adding my 1 inch seam allowance, which will give me 10. Then on my waist measurement is 30 divided by 4, 7.5. I'm going to mark the nipple to nipple, which is 3.5 here, 3.5 here, and the bust point. This is the arm holder. This is the waist. So I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple here, and I'll connect the straight line. Then I am taking a 3/4 inch dart on both sides. I'm not using one. I'm taking a 3/4 inch dart on both sides. That is a 1.5. If I take my 3/4 here, I take my 3/4 here. Then from this bust point, I'm going to come down by 1/2 inch, and I'll connect. So I'm going to, this dart here, this 1.5 inch dart that I took here, and I'm going to replace it back. So I am replacing it now so that at the time I'm cutting out, I will not forget. So I'm adding my seam allowance of 1 inch. I'm also So okay, I have marked my measurement here, so I'm connecting. Okay. So now from my bust point, I am going to come down with the difference between my front half length and my back half length. From what we have on this client, the front half length is 16 and the back half length is 15. So I'm going to come down from this bust point there. I'm going to come down by 1 inch. And I'm going to connect back to the bust point. So I'm going to connect it back to this bust point. Now, by the time I fold, because I am going to fold this back, by the time I fold, if I cut out straight like this, I'm going to have shortage. So I am going to come out here with like half quarter of an inch. So by the time I fold up, I am not going to have any shortage. And when I fold out, so it shows that by the time I fold this thing now, you understand better. So by the time I fold this thing, I will not be cutting out from my pattern already. So I'm going to find the midpoint between these 2 points. The midpoint is 3.5. Then I'm going to come in here by 3/4 for the armhole curve. I lost my audio while making this part, so I'm only just going to say it. So when we are done with our basic bodies, we now want to decide how much we want our heart shape to be. So you can just come down from the neck to how big or how wide you want your heart shape to be. So for this pattern, I came down with 2.5 inches. I am going to connect it to my bust point. Then I am now going to connect it down to how much I want it to be. You can see I'm actually putting a little curve in there to signify the heart shape. Then I used my free hand to connect it to how deep I want it to be or how wide. It all depends on how much you want it. Then after that, I am going to use my pattern to draw it out well to make it look more defined. So ensure your pattern or your heart shape is as big as how you want it. And secondly, also make sure it is connected to your bust point. Yes, you must connect it to your bust point. That would enable you to be able to cut out nicely
and also give your bust a well-defined shape at the end of your dress. I am going to now mark points or notches. As you can see, I am doing on the pattern. Now these notches will actually help when I am cutting on my fabric. Yes, I am marking it on the pattern, so it will enable me to notch on my fabric. Now the importance of these notches is to enable my fabric to lie very well when I'm sewing. That is to lay flat on my body and not form much bulges. So I am going to fold in my waist darts. That means I am going to close my darts now. And I'm actually going to now cut out my circle. When cutting out, please ensure that those marks, those notches on the pattern is actually reflecting on both sides of the paper, so as to be able to notch on both your fabric, both your fabric, that is on the heart shape side and on the side bodies. Then I'm also folding in my bust darts, and I will glue it down so it will enable my pattern to lie flat on the table, so I can actually cut it out freely without hindrance. At this point, I had to check how many inches I came down with. Then I was contemplating if I would go down to have a more deeper heart shape, but on a second thought, I had to let it be. When cutting yours, you can go as deep or as wide as you want your heart shape to be. It really does not have any standard here. After cutting out, this is what I have of my heart shape, and that is what I have of my bodice. So when I place it in between and I hold them, you would see how it fits perfectly in a circle. Yes. Kindly take note of the notched points and replicate these notched points on your fabric. This will allow the fabric to rest flat when you are sewing and not actually cause you difficulties when sewing. So when it's done, you can see actually how it's nicely contoured here on the pattern, and it's actually bringing out the fullness of the breast. So here I'll be showing us how to place our pattern when cutting. I have already made this dress, so I'm actually using this fabric as an example of what you have to do. So you can either place your heart shape open like that, add your 1/2 inches on all the sides and cut out, or you can also place it on fold and cut out. Yes. So however way you place it, you're actually going to get the same result. You can actually place it open, add your 1/2 inches, or you can also place it on fold, add your 1/2 inches, your joining allowances, and cut out. Then notch on those points because it's actually going to help you when you're sewing. Then you also place your side bodies now. It's just the way you'd see me placing it. Ensure there's enough fabric for you to place it together. You can place it. That point which I'm currently holding may not necessarily have to touch the edge of the fabric. No, so just place it. Ensure it's laid out flat on your fabric. Just lay it out flat. Then you can pin the necessary sides and you cut out. So I'm going to add my 1/2 inch for my joining allowance all around it, down to the end, down to the waist, on the shoulder, on the neck, on my armhole. I'm going to add my joining allowances of 0.5 inches on these places so that I'll be able to have something I can use to join with when I'm sewing. So with that, I have come to the end of this class. You can actually cut any back bodies of your choice. Kindly subscribe and click the notification bell.